Hey student, in this lecture we are mainly going to focus upon the reproduction. So, the reproduction, its pattern and the human reproductive system. So, when I talk about the reproduction, first it is very important to understand what is reproduction. So, as we have learnt, as we have heard many a times, that reproduction is basically a process of producing new offspring by asexual or sexual means. Okay? So, this is what we call the reproduction. Now, coming to the patterns of reproduction. So, when I say the patterns of reproduction, it means that it can be mainly done in two ways. The first way is what we call the asexual pattern, right? This is the asexual one, and the second we will see as the sexual pattern. So, the asexual and sexual. Now, let us quickly see what are the differences between the asexual and sexual patterns. So, firstly, when we talk about the asexual reproduction, the most important thing that we talk about is that here only a single parent is involved. Okay? A single parent is involved. So, this single parent, it is able to produce the new offspring on its own. Alright? But when we talk about the sexual reproduction, here we see that usually two parents are involved. Okay? And these two parents which are involved, they are male and female. Okay? So, this is the first and the general difference between these two. Now, second, we see that in the asexual reproduction, there is no genetic mixing. What is the meaning of genetic mixing in here? Well, since we see that there is only a single parent involved in asexual reproduction, obviously there is no chance that there will be any kind of genetic mixing. The chromosomes or basically the DNA which is present in the single parent, it is only going to pass to the next generation, and hence it does not result in any genetic variation. Okay? So, we see that in case of asexual reproduction, there are no genetic variations. Okay? Now, coming to the sexual reproduction, again, as we know that there are two parents involved, both their genetic material, it gets mixed. So, there occurs the genetic mixing, and since there is mixing of the genes etc., what happens is that there will occur some genetic variation. This genetic variation is because some of the character in the offspring will come from the father and some will come from the mother. So, the male and the female, they both will pass some of the characters of their own, and some new characters will be formed in this new offspring. Okay? Next, we see that during the asexual reproduction, usually more number of offsprings are given. Okay? So, here more number of offsprings are given, whereas in case of sexual reproduction, these are just a fewer. Alright. Lastly, we will see some of the examples, and examples can be bacteria, right? Bacteria, it can divide into two and form new offsprings. Similarly, amoeba, hydra, etc. Okay? So, these are some of the examples of asexual reproduction. Coming to the sexual reproduction, these are mostly the higher animals. Okay? So, we call them higher animals and plants. Okay? So, this was about the main differences between the sexual and the asexual reproduction. Now, when we are talking about the higher animals and plants, we are mainly going to focus upon the human reproductive system. So, when we are talking about the human reproductive system, we see that this system, it mainly has a function to perform the sexual reproduction, and for the sexual reproduction, we know that there are basically gametes present. So, in case of asexual reproduction, there are no gamete formation, okay, because these gametes are not required to mix up. but here in sexual reproduction gametes are formed. These gametes, they can be of two types, the male and the female. Okay, so on the basis of this, mainly the human reproductive system has two parts. The first part is the primary organs, okay, and the second part is the accessory organs. Now, why do we call them so? It is so because these primary organs, they are mainly related with the production of gametes, okay. They help in the production of gametes. So, these are primary organs, the primary reproductive organs. Next, when we talk about the accessory organs, we see that they mainly assist. So, they assist in what? Well, they assist in the transfer of gametes, okay, and they also help in the process of reproduction. So, although they are not primarily involved or directly involved, but they have a very great importance as they are the ones which help in this process of reproduction. So, let us have a look at the male reproductive system next.